get
I'm gonna tell
anything
you
else.
like I told Puffy. I don't let men take me out, sir. I'm good.
Y'all, remember when Katt Williams looked straight into the camera and stopped joking for a second? That moment didn't feel like comedy anymore. It felt like a warning wrapped in laughter. Because years before the headlines, before courtrooms and leaked files, before anyone dared whisper the name Jeffrey Epstein out loud on mainstream shows, Katt was already hinting that something dark was hiding behind Hollywood's brightest smiles. People called it conspiracy. They called him crazy. They said he was chasing attention. But now, the timeline looks different. Because when those Epstein documents started surfacing, those old interviews hit like thunder. Every clip, every pause, every sentence that sounded exaggerated suddenly felt uncomfortable, like he knew more than he could safely say. And when he walked onto Club Shay Shay, he didn't come with punchlines. He came with smoke, heavy pauses, careful words, and a message that sounded less like gossip and more like a coded alarm about powerful names hiding in plain sight. This isn't about jokes anymore. It's about patterns. About why certain stories disappear. Why certain celebrities never get questioned. Why the same circles keep showing up in whispers nobody wants to repeat. Because if Katt was telling even part of the truth, then the real story isn't what we heard on stage. It's what was happening behind the cameras the whole time. And tonight, we're breaking down every clue, every interview, and every moment that suddenly doesn't look like comedy anymore.
That's the battle that's going on, is people who profit from the manipulation of others by getting you to believe something that's not the case. And that's how they make their living. And it is now a difficult time for those entities.
There was a time when the timeline treated him like static on a broken radio. People laughed him off, branded him bitter, erratic, desperate for attention, anything except honest. His interviews became punchlines. His cautions drowned under jokes and reaction gifs. But now, in the present, those same laughs echo differently. Because the moment legal filings leaked, the instant flight manifests hit trending tabs, the second sealed folders cracked under public pressure, the mood in the room snapped. Denial stopped feeling safe. It started feeling like thin glass ready to shatter. When the Epstein records finally clawed their way into daylight, panic followed close behind. Feeds turned into war zones overnight. Loyal fans rushed in like soldiers, shielding their idols, guarding legacies with fierce devotion. For many, even imagining their heroes brushing shoulders with something this sinister was unbearable. The fantasy collapsed. And from all the rumors whispered in private chats, all the names guessed, debated, and picked apart, one landed with the force of a shockwave. Jay-Z, and the response was instant. Deafening. Explosive. Split straight down the middle.
You take people like Jay-Z and Pusha T, they made their living our people. So how the they gonna stand up for our people? You know what I'm saying? But we forget that because we love Jay-Z's music so much. We love Pusha's music so much, right? But you think they would ever, Beyonce had the best for somebody else?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You think they would ever tell the truth? No, if they told the truth about anything, they'd go to jail. You know what I'm saying? So you have liars.
Man.
Liars are now the face.
It forces you to ask what kind of influence Beyoncé really commands that grown celebrities praise her on stage and practically shrink themselves in her presence. It doesn't look like simple rivalry anymore. It feels darker, like something hidden beneath the glamour. And talking about rivalry means talking about the artists who tried to sound alarms about Beyoncé, only to be iced out and branded unstable. First up is Carrie Hilson. The story goes back to 2009, when a song leaked online that listeners believed was Carrie firing shots at Beyoncé, a remix of Turning Me On. Carrie never spoke Beyoncé's name directly, yet fans insisted those lines were aimed straight at her. Your sight is blurred if you swear you're number one. She can groove, she can sing, but push it to the side. Then the tension exploded at the Soul Train Music Awards, when Carrie refused to pose with a juicy magazine issue showing Beyoncé and Jay-Z on the cover.
In your thoughts on Donald Trump and what it means for what it means for mass incarceration.
You know what? This is a labor of love for Jay, and as a result, he's my friend. We're here to talk about that and nothing else.
Well, then can I ask you about mass incarceration? And do you think the movement is...
And it didn't end with paperwork or court filings. Soon, the internet started digging deeper, pulling old memories out of storage. Forgotten photos, grainy videos, guest lists from another era. Suddenly, Jay-Z was being spotted all over again, standing shoulder to shoulder at ultra-exclusive parties, surrounded by the same controversial power players people were now side-eyeing. Rooms filled with billionaires, moguls, and men whose names keep showing up in the worst kinds of headlines. Back then, nobody blinked. It was just industry networking. Just celebrities being celebrities. Even when Kanye hinted at something darker years ago, most people laughed him off like background noise. Now, those same clips feel different. People are replaying his words with fresh ears, analyzing every pause, every warning, every moment he sounded less like a rapper and more like someone trying to tell us what was really happening behind velvet ropes. But the spotlight didn't stop with him. Once the files cracked open, the dominoes started falling. Other famous names began resurfacing, dragged back into conversations they probably hoped were long buried. Naomi Campbell's name surfaced through flight logs, showing multiple trips aboard Epstein's private jet in the early 2000s. On paper, it looked like simple travel. Just another celebrity hopping between events. She's publicly denied knowing anything about his crimes and has repeatedly said she stands with the victims. And maybe that's true. Maybe it is. But the internet doesn't deal in maybes. Because alongside those logs, old emails and archived footage started making the rounds, clips that painted a more complicated picture. And for many watching, it sparked an uncomfortable question. How much did she really see? And what exactly was happening when young models were being offered career opportunities?
I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him. No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. It just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that. It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Even Chris Tucker's name quietly slipped into the records, tied to a flight aboard Epstein's private jet back in the early 2000s. At first glance, it didn't look explosive, just another entry on a long, confusing manifest. And technically, being listed doesn't automatically mean guilt. But by that point, it wasn't about proof anymore. It was about patterns. And with every new celebrity name that surfaced, the picture started feeling less random and a lot more connected. Because this clearly wasn't some tiny, isolated circle. It wasn't just politicians. It wasn't just billionaires. It wasn't confined to one world. It stretched across music, film, tech, an entire network of familiar faces people thought they knew. And that realization alone made the list feel heavier than any single accusation. Chris and his team didn't waste time. Almost immediately, they shifted into damage control. Statements were drafted. Explanations were polished. The story they offered was simple and clean. His presence wasn't social. It wasn't suspicious. It was humanitarian. They said he had only been on Epstein's jet for a charity trip to Africa, something focused on philanthropy, AIDS awareness.
Jeffrey Epstein, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. We flew Bill Clinton and a lot of different. That was a humanitarian trip to Africa. And I met him on that trip because it was his plane. I didn't know who plane we was getting on, but it was a whole bunch of dignitary people. We was with a delegation, and I met him. And you don't know people what they do in their private lives. So
Tell me this, Chris. You was on this private plane, and you could tell that it was a private plane because they called it Lolita Express.
Oh yeah, it was a private plane. Yes. Oh yes.
But wait a minute. You didn't never go to that island, did you?
No. I don't know where that thing at. No. I don't think
plane was enough.
Hey, we was going to Africa to say.
According to them, the trip also included Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey, so it was supposed to look official and innocent, but almost nobody believed that explanation.
Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker. Oh, not Smokey. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Hey, I know Kevin Spacey. Hey, I know Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, did he ever talk about these celebrities and like these stories with them or anything like that?
He would tell me things like I knew when he flew Clinton to Africa, which is what first put him on the map. He told me he went to Africa. He took Spacey, Chris Tucker. He would mention people's names that he was with, but he wouldn't tell me much about them themselves. Mm-hmm. But, he would tell me he was with so-and-so.
If I didn't know no better, I'd tell you he's the greatest. I don't care what you say. To be confident and not delusional is a real skill. Most of these confident people we see is really delulu.
Well, you don't think they asked Chris Tucker to come back in the second Friday?
Chris Tucker didn't want to be the poster child for smoking weed. He don't smoke weed like that.
Right.
He in the church. He Michael Jackson's best friend. Christmas. Michael Jackson called him Christmas. You ever met a man that gave you a little nickname like that?
No.
Me neither. Must be the greatest.
Man, I ain't gonna be able to get nobody back on. I ain't gonna be able to get no more comedians.
They all coming.
No, they ain't.
Are you kidding?
Nah.
Hey, I promise you.
I done got all the rest of them. I done got the ones.
I promise you, everybody trying to double back. You're gonna be having to beat them off with a stick. You won't let him. They're coming. Much as.
But bringing up Bill Clinton only poured gasoline on the fire. By that point, the images were already burned into the public's memory. Clinton inside Epstein's mansion, smiling, chatting, looking far too at ease for someone who supposedly had no clue what was happening behind those walls. It wasn't just the location that bothered people. It was the body language, the comfort, the casual energy. To many watching, that relaxed demeanor spoke louder than any carefully crafted statement ever could. And Chris? He was orbiting those same circles during that exact era. Same parties, same private flights, same exclusive rooms most people will never even see. Yet now he expects the public to believe he somehow missed everything, noticed nothing, suspected no one. That's a tough sell. Because the more these worlds overlap, the less believable innocence starts to sound. Just when it felt like Katt's warnings had already shaken enough people, new voices began stepping into the chaos. The conversation didn't fade, it multiplied. As the documents kept spreading online, longtime singer Jaguar Wright suddenly re-emerged, sharper and louder than ever, ready to share what she claimed she'd witnessed from the inside. And she didn't hold back. She added gasoline to an already raging fire, pointing straight at the music industry's power structure. In a long, unfiltered interview, she made it clear her problems with Jay-Z weren't sparked by one bad moment or a single misunderstanding. According to her, this wasn't one incident. It was a pattern, something she said she watched grow slowly, year after year, right in front of her eyes. Eventually, she said, something inside her snapped. There's only so much you can witness before it starts eating at you. According to Jaguar, the industry never truly rewarded honesty. That was the illusion they sold to the public. Behind the scenes, it was a different currency entirely. Silence. Obedience. Looking the other way. Those were the traits that kept you safe. The ones who kept secrets, who played their role, who pretended not to notice anything suspicious. They were protected, elevated, even celebrated. But the second someone spoke out, the floor disappeared beneath them. She claimed whistleblowers didn't just lose opportunities, they were erased. Blacklisted. Labeled crazy. Their reputations shredded, their money cut off, their careers slowly strangled until they had no platform left to stand on. Not punished loudly, just quietly removed, like they were never there to begin with. Jaguar admitted that for years, she pinned all the blame on Diddy alone. It was easier that way. Easier to believe one powerful man was the problem instead of something much bigger. But over time, the dots stopped connecting so neatly. The deeper she looked, the more tangled everything seemed. Different names, different rooms, same patterns. That's when she realized this wasn't one villain, it was a network. And that's why, she said, she could never fully buy the public stories claiming certain power players were never close, never collaborated, never crossed paths. Because the old interviews, the archived footage, the photos people forgot about, they told a different story. One that suggested those connections were a lot tighter than anyone wanted to admit.
With Jay-Z and his situation, as far as the early Jay-Z, you see him with Aaliyah Young, of course, goes to Dame Dash next. You see him with Foxy Brown. You see the maturation of Beyonce and him getting with Beyonce. You see Rihanna at a young age. Is it more so, and you were young as a singer, is it more so that, when you're in this industry, men are going to most likely talk and date their peers? And it's just that technically all the new rising stars at that time
are babies.
Just young women, just young kids.
Babies. Being ran around by grown men. Babies. I got offered my first record deal when I was 13 years old. I got offered another one when I was 15. I'm so grateful that my father said no. I ended up not signing a record deal until I was in my early 20s. And as young as that is, looking back now, at least I was a legal adult. Most of these girls, they get moved around and touched around very early on. And and the people that have control of everything are untouchable. So how do you argue with that?
Is it of concern that before this list came out, that the people in this power they have their hands in keeping this list, suppressed?
Yeah. Come on, man. I think we're speaking about this from a place where we're trying to make it seem like things are fair and people are just and people are decent, and rather than looking at it for what it is. The one thing that all of these files and all of these documents, and let's just be clear, we're talking about 3 million documents that have been released so far. When you release that amount of information, you're doing it to fatigue people. It's going to take people quite some time to get through all of these files, and who knows how long they're going to be available. Stuff might start go missing, things of that nature. But we all should be going through and combing through every inch of everything that's going on, because when they put that much out there, they're hoping you're going to just overlook something. They're hoping you're going to get fatigued from all of the information, and you're not. We got to keep looking. Like, we have 4 people around us that are every day combing through a bit. We combing through a bit. And you got to sit down and you got to take your time and look at it. What these files prove is that there are no rules, is that nothing has ever been fair. It's been being covered up.
She said denial is a comfort zone most people never want to leave. It's softer there, safer, because facing ugly truths means tearing down everything you thought you knew about your heroes. And for a lot of people, it's easier to laugh things off, scroll past the evidence, and label it conspiracy than to sit with that discomfort. Ignorance feels lighter. Reality feels heavy. She pointed directly at media personalities who kept minimizing the Epstein documents, brushing them aside like they were nothing. The same recycled lines kept popping up everywhere. Names don't mean anything. These aren't official. It was just a tip line. Excuses stacked on top of excuses, like they were trying to smother the story before it could breathe. Jaguar wasn't buying any of it. Her question cut straight through the noise. If the files were meaningless, then why hide them for so long? Why seal them up like state secrets? Why fight so hard to keep the public from seeing what was inside? To her, that contradiction said everything. She put it bluntly, people will destroy regular, innocent individuals over nothing but gossip, no proof, no paperwork, just whispers. Yet when a billionaire or a superstar's name shows up tied to Epstein, suddenly everyone turns into a defense attorney. Suddenly it's caution. Suddenly it's, let's not jump to conclusions. To her, that logic didn't add up. If someone's name is connected to Epstein in any serious capacity, she argued, that alone should trigger real scrutiny, not instant excuses and polished PR statements. Questions should come first, not protection. Then the conversation moved toward the Department of Justice, and the tone got even heavier. The host asked the question most people were already thinking, why were these files buried for years? The Epstein Files Transparency Act didn't even show up until mid-2025, basically forcing disclosure. But before that, both the Trump and Biden administrations had chances to release everything, and neither one did. Jaguar didn't hesitate. To her, this wasn't red versus blue. This wasn't left or right. Politics was just a distraction.
Don't forget the Biden administration had the ability to release these files as well, and they didn't either.
True.
So this isn't a political thing. Let's stop making it political. I think everyone wants to make it political. Oh, look at the politicians, and this isn't about the rappers, and this isn't about this, and this is about the politicians. No, it's not. No, it's not, because you got Democrats and Republicans equally aligned up in this whole foolishness. This is about a certain class of people in this country that have been doing all kinds of shit. And it really doesn't matter what your religious background is, what your social standing is, or what your political standing is. It really doesn't matter. This is not about them versus us, or no. This is about the weirdos and then the normal people, and not even normal people, just decent people. The problem is that the weirdos are outnumbering, it's looking like, the decent people 10-1. Like, does anybody get that? Like, the simple fact that nobody is holding TMZ into account for anything, and they've been mentioned in these files. Harvey Levin specifically.
To Jaguar, the quiet isn't empty, it's deafening. In her eyes, when the loudest rooms suddenly go still, that silence starts sounding like a confession. And then the spotlight shifted again, landing hard on Elon Musk. Because when the latest documents dropped, his story didn't just get questioned, it got complicated. Musk has long insisted he turned down invitations to Epstein's Island, a line repeated in interviews and statements. But buried in a chain of 2012 emails, a different picture seemed to flicker into view, one that raised new doubts, new timelines, and questions nobody could ignore.
Tonight, the Department of Justice releasing their final batch of files connected to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. New emails from 2012 and 2013 show billionaire Elon Musk and Epstein coordinating a possible visit to the financier's infamous island. Musk asks when the wildest party will be. In another exchange, Epstein telling Musk there is always space for you and says he will send a heli for him. It's not clear if Musk ever visited the island. Musk's name has popped up in prior releases, including from the House Oversight Committee's release from the Epstein estate. He did not respond to NBC News' request for comment, but previously called Epstein a cretin and said he never advised him. Musk told Vanity Fair that Epstein tried repeatedly to get him to his island, but he declined. Emails also show Trump Cabinet Secretary Howard Lutnick coordinating a visit in the Caribbean in 2012. It's not clear if the meetings happened. Lutnick claimed to have cut ties with Epstein in 2005.
My wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
But the emails show drink and lunch meetings being arranged between the two well into 2012. A Commerce Secretary spokesperson said in a statement, quote, Secretary Lutnick has had limited interactions with Mr. Epstein in the presence of his wife and has never been accused of wrongdoing. The drop also includes a spreadsheet summary of complaints made to the FBI's National Threat Operations Center. It contained allegations against former President Donald Trump and former President Bill Clinton. There's no indication the FBI turned up evidence supporting the tips. And a note on the file read some of these individuals are reporting secondhand information and determined some of the tips were not credible. The DOJ later temporarily pulled the file without explanation. Both former presidents have denied any wrongdoing.
Woody Allen's name surfaces again and again throughout the files, popping up so often it stops feeling like coincidence and starts feeling deliberate. According to the records, Epstein repeatedly tried arranging private dinners that included Allen, carefully curating guest lists and looping in other recognizable names like it was some exclusive social club. It wasn't just casual meetups either. There were messages about business, about projects, about favors being exchanged behind closed doors. At one point, Epstein even stepped in to facilitate introductions connected to Allen's film work. In another exchange, a high-profile lawyer reached out, asking if Epstein could help get his son placed on an Allen movie. And instead of brushing it off, Epstein replied that he'd look into it, like that kind of influence was just another day at the office. Like doors simply opened when he knocked. And that detail alone made people uneasy. Because it suggested something bigger, a man who wasn't just socializing with celebrities, but actively moving pieces for them. Making calls. Pulling strings. Quietly positioning himself as the connector everyone seemed willing to use. Then Katt Williams circled back to a point most people would rather ignore. He said there are public figures
in Hollywood exist in religious circles, in politics, in the medical profession, and yeah.
In any circle of business, really.
Yeah.
they had a big bust with Puff Daddy where he got arrested. And then they've had like accusations and stuff. He hasn't gone on trial, I don't think yet. But do you think that there's been speculation that they did that because the timing of that was they wanted to like use other people that have allegedly been involved in some of his circles they wanted to kind of use like, okay, you could be next unless you help this political plan. Do you think that's at all possible?
That's how all cases are handled.
Yeah.
Right? So what am I saying? I'm saying if it's car theft and we're going to accuse you of having a carjacking ring, right? We're going to begin by bringing in people that we caught who were robbing cars, who said that you was the boss. They're first in line. And then we're going to bring in victims, the people whose cars you stole and said, yeah, that was him. That's how they build a case. So, none of that should be shocking.
When the host asked whether fame and power actually change people, whether something happens to them once they reach a certain level, Katt didn't even pause to think. He answered like it was obvious. People don't always come back the same, he said. Not after certain decisions. According to him, there's a point where someone crosses a line they once swore they'd never step over, and once that happens, something inside them shifts for good. A moral switch flips. The person the public used to know starts fading. And no rebrand, no charity work, no carefully staged interviews can fully restore who they used to be. Some changes, he implied, are permanent. He said the pressure isn't just an entertainment thing either. It's everywhere. Politics, business, music, film. Every industry has its version of the same test. Offers get made, favors get dangled, lines get blurred. And most people, when backed into a corner, choose survival over principle. They listen. They stay quiet. They convince themselves it's necessary. What shook him most, he admitted, was seeing it firsthand. Being close enough to witness